Edith Cowan University is set to ban plastic drinking bottles from all of its campuses across the state. The Vice-Chancellor was convinced by the voice of students from WA Screen Academy who are currently making a documentary about the effects of plastic on the environment. Angela Albuquerque reports.
We're starting to feel the effect of plastic on our world now, and it's about time for us to all get together as young people and do something.
In this day and age, I mean, especially with internet and everything, we know what's going on, we've seen what's going on, we've seen how much impact pollution has, especially single-use plastic. And it's something that I think we realise we could make a difference in the whole world by just getting rid of it in our day-to-day use.
My name's Steve Chapman. I'm the Vice-Chancellor of Edith Cowan University. And this is a very special day because today we are going to be banning single-use water bottles on all the campuses of ECU.
The WA Screen Academy has a documentary program, and each year we try to make films that have relevance to things that are happening in the world. And earlier this year I was coming to campus to get my coffee, and I saw these plastic wrapped water bottles being loaded up into the cafe, and my thought was, this can't be good. Why do we still have, in this day and age, single-use plastic water bottles coming on campus? So I went up to the class, and it was a documentary class, and I said, as of today, we're banning plastic water bottles in this course. I mean, that's as much power as I have. And the students went, yeah, too right, let's do it. Why don't we go further? Why don't we get the whole university to do this? And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's give it a try.
At the beginning of it, I wasn't sure exactly how much power we as students had to impact or to actually create change in an institution as big as a whole university. But it's been actually quite inspiring so far how far we've gotten and how much support we have behind us.
This really started from an initiative literally from the students, showing me the effects that plastic has in the environment. It is pretty awful what's happening out there in terms of the pollution we're creating.
So we got our entire cohort at the Western Australian Screen Academy, which was about 30 students, and then we put it to the Guild as they're the representatives of the student body, and it was almost unanimous vote of a yes in support of this initiative, which is just absolutely fabulous.
And I thought, yeah, that's a great idea. Let's give it a try. And so we invited the Vice-Chancellor to come to our class, and the students put together a proposal to show him the plastic threat, which is everywhere. And he came along and had listened and took it seriously. And so a documentary evolved around that.
These guys were pretty persuasive, and it was quite inspirational, the story they gave to me about what a difference the university can make. We have 30,000 students and 2,000 staff, so if they all stop using single-use water bottles, you can see that that's a difference straight away. But if we can influence other organisations, maybe even bigger than us, to do the same, we could have a big effect. And anything I think we can do to make the environment better for the future is a good thing.
Well, the problem is that it's all building up in the world and it's destroying the environment, and the environment is what our world is.
The question of whether a student initiative will actually lead to anything is a big one. Often students think if you put an idea forward, it's not necessarily going to be taken seriously, or it will take years, or there'll be roadblocks and so forth.
So everything that the university controls and that the student guild controls, we will immediately stop using single-use plastic water bottles. We do have some organisations that have contracts to deliver food and beverage, and that will be phased so that when their contracts come up for renewal, we will insist that they don't use single-use water bottles. Until then, of course, they'll be allowed to do that.
I would like to say that think every time that you use plastic, and think about the world that you live in, not just people today, but the people of the future.
I'm very proud of the students. I'm proud of the fact that we hear about things, act local, act global, start local, clean up your own backyard. And this was one time where something that was right in front of our eyes, this ridiculous unnecessary use of plastic on our campus, when we've got water filters and bubblers and, there's no reason to have them selling. I was really hoping that we could push this one and make a step and make something happen. And because we've got such a fantastic Vice-Chancellor and he listened and he did make it happen very quickly, I'm very proud of the students for pushing through. I'm very proud of the university and our Vice-Chancellor for taking the step. And just this is a really happy day for the planet.
We all need to think about our future.
The over-incarceration of Indigenous Australians is an issue that is often swept under the rug. Max Larkins finds out why.
The over-incarceration of Indigenous Australians is our state's shame. I'm here to find out the impacts this has on their culture and why.
It was not until the 1840s that Western Australia had a police force as such, but the imprisonment began with the first prison, which was the Roundhouse in Fremantle, and it's still there, built in the 1832, I think, and now is a tourist site. And some of the interesting prisoners who were there included Yagan, who is regarded now as a historian and a hero to Noongar people.
You know, for me, it always seems to be there are same laws, different sentencing. You know, so there's not equality in that space, and that comes from experience. You know, growing up, if my brother was driving a nice car, we'd get picked up by the police all the time and asked if we stole the vehicle. First question, where'd you steal the vehicle? It's like, sorry, we own it because we worked. So it's all that, you know, for me, a lot of it has to do with that misperception of Aboriginal people in general. You know, because we do work. A lot of us work all the time and very hard. So, you know, we earn what we create. But there's a perception that we don't.
West Australia probably has the highest rate of Indigenous incarceration in Australia, and this is particularly so in regards to Indigenous youth. So the national average of incarceration for Aboriginal youth is about 26 times. So Aboriginal kids are 26 times more likely to be incarcerated, but in WA that's actually double the rate. So an Aboriginal West Australian young person is 52 times more likely to be incarcerated than a non-Indigenous young person. So that's really quite shocking. The levels for Aboriginal women are also very high, and the issue of incarceration of women, Aboriginal women, has been noted for some time now. Aboriginal women are considered to be the fastest growing prison population in Australia. The rates in WA are quite high, so the Bandiup Women's Prison, which is the maximum security prison, has in the past always held about 50% of the population being Aboriginal women. That's dropped to about 40% now with the Melaleuca prison established. But what we also know about Aboriginal women, well, you know, it's considered actually by the Supreme Court. Former Chief Justice once worked out the level of incarceration and said it's possible that this could be the highest rate of incarceration of any group of people in the world. So overall, Australia has a shocking track record in regards to incarcerating Indigenous people. Some of the states are doing far worse, and West Australia is certainly there, followed by Northern Territory. The issue of Indigenous incarceration is deeply grounded in our colonial past. So we know that incarceration was a tool that the colonisers, the Europeans, the British used against Aboriginal people to enforce the dispossession, basically. So Aboriginal people were incarcerated at the, you know, from the time of colonisation. And
you know, social change in society takes decades, generations, you know, thousands of years depending. Sometimes it doesn't. The Industrial Revolution happened really quickly. You know, maybe it's happening too fast. You know, some sociologists kind of say, well, if society changes very quickly, it becomes chaotic because we lose our structures that hold up our society. So if you look at that in the colonial context for Aboriginal Australia, our structures have been either fragmented or pulled apart by the dominant society, and the colonial structures are imposed upon us. So does that create chaos within our society? I don't know. Basically, you know, it's a research project in itself. but it gets me thinking a lot about, you know, if you're imposing a penalty for crime, yeah, but how much of it is actually crime? You know, if you take some of those Aboriginal deaths in custody where people are imprisoned for offences like not paying their fines, and yes, we all have to pay our fines, I get that. But the point is, maybe that's not the way to penalise someone. maybe we need to rethink that. And the other issue, of course, is just mistreatment of human beings.
Though the Police Commissioner apologised for the continued mistreatment of Indigenous Australians, we are still yet to see a concrete answer on how to repair the crimes of the past and how to move forward as a people. I'm Max Larkin, and this is Undercurrent.
Our reporter Stephanie sat down with local filmmaker Luke Riches to talk about his upcoming documentary, Lost Diamonds.
I'm here today with emerging filmmaker Luke Riches, who has produced a new documentary named Lost Diamonds. We're here today to find out more about this documentary.
My name is Luke Riches and I'm an emerging filmmaker, and I was the producer on this production, which is Lost Diamonds. It's a 30-minute documentary that we've produced for NITV. We actually heard about the story growing up in One Arm Point. So myself and my brothers, we grew up there, which is it's a little community just north of Broome. And we heard from the elders in the community that there was a plane that crashed at a place called Carnet Bay. And that really sparked an interest for us, and it wasn't until last year that we really started to research the story. Our host was a guy by the name of Phil Breslin, and he is sort of a Bear Grylls / Steve Irwin character. He's from Brisbane, and we had him come over for the shoot. We thought he was the perfect guy. His role was to really go out to the community and talk to the old people and try to unlock the mysteries of this story. So we essentially are trying to find the diamonds and what happened to the 2/3 of the diamonds that were never recovered. Given that I'm sort of a beginner in the filmmaking industry, as a producer on the project, just pulling everything together was really challenging, but I learnt a lot. So I think the shoot was definitely a highlight, but also getting to learn from the elders and from the people up in the Kimberley about this story, and we managed to come across some eyewitnesses of the event, and we heard from the old people about what happened in that time, you know, during World War II and how Broome was bombed. So it was a really rich story, and we definitely got a lot out of that. There's a history written about this story, and we actually didn't want to explore that in too much detail. It's all there, it's all to be read, but what's amazing about the story is what wasn't written down. So we had to go to the elders, and we found an elder who, her name's Rita Augustine, she lives in Broome. She actually witnessed the plane being shot down and crashing at Carnet Bay. And we tried to follow those leads, and we found some really good stuff. You have to wait to see how it all panned out. But we definitely had to unlock a lot of mysteries and a lot of secrets that have been kept for generations. It's a project that I'm excited about, and I hope that people will have the time to watch this documentary. There's a lot of work that was put into it. We've been really lucky to be surrounded by some good people and some professionals that have really pulled this together. So our cinematographer and our sound recordist were excellent on the shoot. Our host was brilliant to work with. And we've been provided support from, you know, Screen West and NITV, and Joined Up has been the executive producer on the project, and they've provided a lot of support. It's going to be screened on NITV. We're not actually sure just yet the time slot. I think the scheduling is going to be determined once the final package is delivered to NITV, so keep an eye out.
I'm Stephanie Acevedo reporting for Undercurrent.
Thanks for tuning in to this week's episode of Undercurrent. Don't forget you can now download our WTV Your View app for free and watch all our episodes live. This has been Laura for Undercurrent.